This clip of the Texas Bucket List is brought to you by Spirit of Texas Bank and Slovacek Sausage. Howdy, and welcome to the Texas Bucket List, the show dedicated to everything there is to see, do, and experience right here in the Lone Star State. My name is Shane McAuliffe, and this week we head to what's considered the oldest town in Texas. Nacogdoches was founded in 1779, and 60 years later it was full of folks that changed the landscape of the Lone Star State. One of those people was Adolphus Stern, and his home still stands today. Just a few blocks from downtown Nacogdoches sits a small white house that's full of history. And when you walk through these doors, you wish the walls could talk.
So many people actually came through Nacogdoches, stopped through this house, and a lot of Texas history kind of started off here.
Jessica Sowell helps manage the Sterne-Hoya house, and she's got one heck of a title.
Assistant Historic Sites Manager for City of Nacogdoches Historic Sites Department. The longest title in the entire world.
It's a title worth having, though. Jessica gets to showcase this incredible historic home, greet visitors, and tell them about the incredible role it served during the Lone Star State's fight for freedom.
We really are kind of the gateway into Texas. A lot of people are, traveling from the Northeast, from, the colonies, all those sorts of things. And when they get into Louisiana, which is one of the main ports at the time, to get anywhere else in Texas, you pretty much had to go through Nacogdoches.
One of those travelers was Adolphus Stern. Born in Germany, Stern made his way to Nacogdoches in 1826, and in 1830 he built this home. 184 years later, it still stands to tell the tales of Texas.
These great minds that really founded Texas and were part of the revolution, they were here and having parties and slept in this room, so it's really fun to think about.
Texas heroes like Sam Houston and Davy Crockett spent time in this home, having conversations we can only imagine.
It's just amazing to think back, 100, 200 years, that people like Sam Houston that you hear about constantly in school, like he was in this building that we office out of.
You'll find a pair of earrings that Houston gave to one of Adolphus's daughters.
Sam gave her the pair of earrings and the brooch, and then when she turned 16, he gave her a piece of land that's across the street.
And he was even baptized in this home. And Stern's wife, Ava, served as Sam's godmother.
When you moved to Texas, since Mexico owned it, you had to be Catholic so you could own land or so you could hold a public office. Sam Houston, of course, wanted to do both and went on to do both, but he had to be baptized in the Catholic faith and did it here.
Life and liberty were celebrated constantly in the Stern home, and Adolphus wrote about the times in his journal. There were several occasions that the gentleman would watch the sun rise after a night of toasting to Texas. That's why Texans are so much fun.
Exactly, they really are.
They know how to party, even back then.
They really did.
Back then, you had to store your own supplies.
One of the most unique features of this house, and something you really don't see every day, is that we have a wine cellar.
Wasn't it technically a basement?
It is. It's a wine cellar, a root cellar, basement, kind of whatever you want to call it, but Adolphus Stern really liked his wine.
So is there wine down here?
I wish there was wine, but there's actually only empty bottles.
Oh.
But Adolphus Stern definitely used this to save his wine. You put fruits and vegetables and meats down here, all sorts of stuff, just really anything you wanted to keep cold.
Despite 2 centuries of wear and tear, most of the home is exactly how Stern built it. The Hoya family purchased the home from the Sterns in 1869 and lived here till 1958, when they donated it to the city.
We repaint and re-wallpaper and fix rotten boards, but a lot of the house is original.
The home draws all sorts of visitors, from history buffs, school groups, even people with connections to the history of Texas.
See, I've heard this stuff since I was had a toad frog on all of the relatives.
Bud Rusk has one of those incredible connections. Thomas Jefferson Rusk, one of the signers of the Texas Declaration of Independence and participant in the Battle of San Jacinto, was Bud's great-great-great-grandfather.
It seems like every door that opens, they get more information for me, and I go to another door, so.
Bud traveled to the oldest town in Texas to learn more about his lineage and even came across an old family Bible as we visited.
Yeah, and a lot of these were given to us in the 50s and the 60s and then just sat here forever.
Pretty bad shape, I'm sure.
Yes.
To see a moment like this gives you chills. It's a direct connection to the state's past and the people who made Texas what it is today.
Who knows, they might even have a descendant that was here during the Republic of Texas.
It's not very often that you can find something from your family 3 generations ago. So it really is fun if they get to come to the museum and we're like, oh, this pictures of your great-grandpa that we happen to have, or we have their Bible or a scrapbook they gave us or a document they signed. So it really is neat because, of course, these people have never usually met the descendant or their, the generations before them, but they get to see these pieces of paper that they signed.
After seeing this historical site, you can mosey down the road and pay your respects to the founders of Texas at the Oak Grove Cemetery. It's the final resting place of Adolphus Stern, Thomas Jefferson Rusk, and 3 other signers of the Texas Declaration of Independence.
It's important that they come see the roots, how Texas was first a republic, and then how they fought their way into becoming a republic and then becoming a state. It's important that they should come and see that information and pass it along from generation to generation.
There's so many different places that are so important to Texas history, but this is definitely one of the most important.
People should come down and visit Nacogdoches and see the history that is here. This place is steeped in history, it really is.